Number 7. Habits that bring poverty into your home. Stoicism. Stoic. Zeno. Full video script. Before we begin, I need to ask you something. Close your eyes for just a moment. Or don't, because you're driving or walking or lying awake at night with something heavy on your chest. And think about the home you are living in right now. Think about the walls. Think about the voices. Think about the invisible energy that fills every room from the moment the first person wakes up to the moment the last light goes out. Now ask yourself, completely honestly, without defense and without judgment, does that home feel like a place that is building people? Or does it feel like a place that is quietly, slowly, steadily wearing them down? Because here is something nobody is saying loudly enough. Poverty does not always begin with a number. It does not always begin with a job loss, or a debt that spiraled out of control, or a medical crisis that wiped out everything you had saved. Those things are real and they are painful, and I am not minimizing any of them. But the deepest poverty, the kind that wraps itself around a family and follows it from one generation to the next, that poverty starts somewhere else entirely. It starts inside the home. It starts in the habits. It starts in the small, repeated daily choices that seem so ordinary, so unremarkable, that nobody even thinks to question them. We live in a world that treats poverty as a financial condition. And yes, money matters. Of course it does. But what the world rarely tells you is that a home can have a full refrigerator, a new car in the driveway, and a bank account that looks fine from the outside, and still be devastatingly, completely poor. Poor in connection, poor in peace, poor in hope, poor in the kind of richness that no salary can produce and no inheritance can replace. And on the other side of that coin, a home can have almost nothing in terms of material wealth and still be overflowing with something that turns children into giants, emotionally, spiritually, and eventually, practically. So what makes the difference? Habits. Daily, repeated, seemingly invisible habits. Patterns of behavior and speech and thought and response that either build a household into something strong and lasting, or quietly hollow it out from the inside until one day you look around at the life you built and realize it feels like a stranger's home. Today, we are going to look at 7 of those habits. 7 patterns that invite poverty into your home. Not just financial poverty, but the poverty of connection, the poverty of direction, the poverty of peace. And I need you to stay with me through all 7, because some of these are going to feel familiar. Some of them are going to land in a tender place, and that is not something to be ashamed of. That is called awareness, and awareness is the only door through which change ever walks. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher who carried the weight of an empire on his shoulders every single day, wrote something that has stayed with me. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Most households are not dying. They are simply never fully alive. And that quiet half-life, going through the motions without genuine peace, without shared vision, without real connection, that is the deepest poverty of all. So let us begin, and let us choose, starting today, to fully live. Welcome to Stoic Zeno. If this channel has ever helped you see your life more clearly, if these words have ever given you the courage to make a better choice, then please take a moment right now to like this video. Leave a comment below telling me which habit you are working on first. Share this with someone whose home deserves better. And subscribe to Stoic Zeno so you never miss a message like this one. And if you want to go further and directly support the work we do here, you can press the Super Thanks button below this video. Every single one matters more than you know. Now, let us get into the 7 habits. Habit 1. Constant conflict. A home that goes to war every day will eventually have nothing left worth fighting for. I want you to think about a couple you have known. Maybe one you grew up watching, maybe your own parents. Maybe, and I say this with great gentleness, maybe it is you. They love each other. The love is real. You can see traces of it in the photographs from years ago, in the way their hands still find each other sometimes without thinking. But somewhere between who they were on the day they chose each other and who they became inside the ordinary pressure of a shared life, something shifted. And now what lives on the surface most days is not warmth. It is friction. It is tension. It is a kind of low-grade, never fully resolved warfare that has become so familiar that nobody even questions it anymore. Breakfast begins with a comment that lands wrong. The drive somewhere is silent in the way that feels like punishment rather than peace. Dinner is a performance, everyone playing their role, pretending for the sake of the children that nothing is wrong. While the children, who are far more perceptive than any adult in that house ever gives them credit for, feel every single undercurrent, every unspoken resentment, every moment of tension that the adults believe they are successfully hiding. And then the argument that has been building all day finally erupts at 9 o'clock at night when everyone is exhausted, when nobody has the emotional reserves to actually hear anything, when the only things available are old wounds and tired words. The same things get said that were said the week before. Nobody wins, and nobody knows how to stop. This is chronic conflict, and it is one of the most expensive things a home can carry. Not expensive in money, expensive in life. Think about what conflict actually costs a home when you lay it out honestly. It costs sleep. Because arguments do not stay in the room where they happen. They follow you into the dark. They fill the hours when you should be restoring yourself. And instead, you are lying there replaying everything, rearranging the words, rehearsing what you should have said, or wishing you could take back what you did. Night after night, week after week. It costs health. The human body was not designed to live inside permanent low-grade threat. Chronic stress does things to people that take years to show up but decades to undo. It raises the blood pressure. It weakens the immune system. It lives in the muscle and the bone long after the conversation that caused it has been forgotten. People in deeply conflicted homes age faster. They get sicker more often. They carry the physical damage of emotional war in their bodies without even realizing the connection. It costs focus. The parent who is in the middle of an unresolved crisis at home cannot show up completely anywhere else. Their mind is still in that house, still processing, still trying to make sense of what happened. The child who witnessed fighting before school sits in a classroom with their body present and their attention miles away. Back at the breakfast table, back in that hallway, still trying to feel safe. And it costs opportunity. Because a person whose entire emotional energy is consumed by surviving the daily warfare inside their own home has nothing left for dreaming, for building, for pursuing anything beyond the next 24 hours. The idea that could have become something stays an idea. The decision that needed to be made gets pushed aside again. Someday is always the answer in a conflicted home, and someday in that kind of environment almost never arrives. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" Read that again slowly. Whatever started the argument, however real and valid it felt in that moment, look at what the anger has cost. Look at what the conflict has taken from the people who had to live inside it. The consequences are almost always vastly greater than the original cause. A person who sets fire to their home in a moment of rage does not get warm from the flames. They freeze in the ruins of the very thing they were fighting to protect. Here is the truth that conflicted homes most need to hear. You are not fighting each other. You are fighting the problem. And the moment the person across the room stops feeling like your partner and starts feeling like your opponent, you have already lost. Not the argument, but something far more valuable: the security of the home itself. One argument will not end a family, but 1,000 small ones, left unaddressed, left to fester, left to become the baseline normal. They absolutely can. Habit 2. Disrespect that becomes a language. When you stop honoring the people you live with, you stop being a family and start being strangers who share a roof. Murray. Disrespect never announces itself. It does not arrive loudly on any particular Tuesday and make itself known as the thing that is going to slowly hollow out your household. It arrives in moments so small that most people do not register them as anything at all. It is the first time you interrupt someone mid-sentence and do not apologize. It is the first time you roll your eyes at something they say and they see it. It is the first time you make a small joke at their expense in a group and everyone laughs, including them, because what else can they do? But later, alone, they feel slightly smaller than they did before you opened your mouth. It is the first time you dismiss an idea before fully hearing it. The first time you use a tone with the person you love that you would never use with a stranger. The first time you realize you are genuinely more courteous to the person behind the checkout counter than you are to the person you chose to build a life with. None of these moments feel like turning points. In the moment, each one feels like a bad day, a tired mood, something that doesn't really matter. But they accumulate, they layer, they pile on top of each other silently, day after day, until disrespect becomes the native language of that home. Until it is simply how things are. Until nobody even notices it anymore, because it has been the normal for so long. And this is where the real damage reaches its furthest. Because the children in that home are learning. Quietly, without anyone teaching them anything directly, they are absorbing the lesson of what relationships look and feel like. What love and proximity mean in practice. Wow. And they are going to carry that lesson into every relationship they ever have. The child who grows up inside a home of disrespect learns one of two things. The first, I am not worth being treated well. This child becomes an adult who accepts poor treatment as proof of love, who mistakes cruelty for closeness, who does not know how to leave situations that are diminishing them because they were raised inside one and it felt like home. The second, this is simply how people treat each other. This child is not cruel by choice. They are not a bad person. They genuinely do not know another way because they were never shown one. They bring the language of disrespect into their own home, with their own partner, with their own children. And the inheritance continues. Marcus Aurelius did not just philosophize about this. He practiced it as a daily discipline. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. You cannot demand respect from others while withholding it from the people closest to you. You cannot raise children in dignity while treating their other parent with contempt. Honor is not declared. It is not something you announce at a dinner party or express in a greeting card. It is lived in the unremarkable, unglamorous, ordinary moments that make up 90% of every shared life. Genuine respect is not merely the absence of cruelty. It is the presence of something active and deliberate. It is the choice to speak to your partner in a voice that says you matter to me, even when you are exhausted. It is listening to your child's thought all the way to its end before you respond. It is treating the people who live inside your home at least as well as you treat the people you are trying to impress. The day you begin truly honoring the people under your roof is the day your home starts becoming something different, something worth living inside. Habit 3. A household built on complaints. A mouthful of complaints will raise children full of a hopelessness they will carry for the rest of their lives. Think about someone you have known, maybe someone you grew up around, who could locate the shadow in any light. You could show them the most breathtaking sunrise you have ever seen, the kind of morning that makes even skeptics believe in something larger than themselves, and within 60 seconds they would find the flaw in it. Too bright, too early, gone in an hour anyway, and it almost would be darkly funny. Except that this person is not performing. They are not trying to ruin the moment for everyone around them. They have simply, through years of daily practice, in a home where the primary language was complaint, trained their eyes to find what was wrong first. Always wrong first. And their children learn to see the world through exactly the same lens. This is the thing about the atmosphere of a home that most people never stop to consider. It does not ask permission. It does not knock on the door and introduce itself. It simply fills the lungs of everyone who lives there, every single day, until it becomes what they believe air is supposed to feel like. A household built on complaints does not produce complainers who know they are complainers. It produces people who experience the world as genuinely difficult, who see obstacles where others see entry points, who feel the weight of every risk more acutely than the possibility of any reward. Not because they are weaker, but because that is how the world was narrated to them during the years when the narration went deepest. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and still chose philosophy over bitterness, who had every external justification for complaint imaginable and declined to make his home there, said something that should stop every perpetually complaining mouth cold. He who complains suffers twice. The first suffering is what life actually handed you. The second suffering, the one that is entirely yours to choose or refuse, is never releasing it, never allowing yourself or the people who live with you and look to you to move past it. And while you are enduring that second suffering voluntarily, your children are watching, they are recording, they are writing the pattern into themselves as truth. The first suffering, life gave you. The second, you are handing to your children as an inheritance. I am not asking for pretending. I am not asking for manufactured cheerfulness painted over real pain. There is a profound and important difference between processing difficulty honestly and choosing to live inside it permanently. Processing it honestly sounds like, this is hard, but let us figure out what we can do. Let us look at what we still have. Let us think about what might be possible from here. Living inside it permanently sounds like, nothing ever works out for us. Things will never change. This is just how it is for people like us. One is honest about difficulty but open to the future. The other closes every door before anyone has a chance to walk through. What fills the air of your home? What do your children hear when they listen to the adults talking? What is the story being told about life, about possibility, about what the future holds for this family? Because that story, told 1,000 times, in 1,000 small ways, becomes their inner voice. The voice they will carry and consult for the rest of their lives. Speak possibility into the air your children breathe. Not because life is always easy, it is not, but because the ability to find a door even in a wall full of nothing but walls is a skill. And skills practiced daily, heard daily, absorbed daily, become instinct. Give your children the instinct to look for the door. Habit 4. Choosing comfort over growth. The comfort you are choosing today is quietly, patiently stealing the future your family deserves. This one is the most dangerous of the 7, because it does not look like a problem. On the surface, it looks like rest. It looks like balance. It looks like you have finally, mercifully stopped running long enough to breathe. It looks like you have chosen peace over pressure, wisdom over hustle. And sometimes that is exactly what it is. But very often, underneath the ease and the settling and the path of least resistance, something is being taken. And it is being taken quietly, which is the most efficient method of theft there is. Things lost loudly are impossible to ignore. Things lost quietly slip past you while you are comfortable. Here is what this actually looks like in a real home. It is the couple who both know, and they both know, even if neither of them has said it out loud recently, that their relationship needs more than existence. Not just cohabitation, not just logistical coordination, but genuine, intentional connection. Real conversations that go beneath the surface, dedicated, protected time, the kind of honest vulnerability that love requires in order to stay alive and well. But that work feels heavy. It requires someone to go first. So instead, both people choose the path that requires nothing, and they sit in the same room on separate screens and call it togetherness, and the space between them grows so slowly that neither of them can identify the day it started. It is the parent who knows they need to have the difficult conversation with their teenager about the friends, about the choices, about the direction things are heading. But that conversation will be uncomfortable. The teenager might get upset. There will be friction. So the parent waits for a calmer moment, a better window, a day when everything feels easier, and the better moment never quite arrives. And the teenager keeps drifting further towards something the parent was afraid to address. It is the person with the idea, the gift, the thing they know they are meant to do, who keeps it stored safely in the warm, comfortable imagination of someday. Someday when the timing is better, when there is more money, when the children are older, when everything is just slightly more ready than it is right now, someday. And all the while, And the future that could have existed is being erased, gently and completely, by today's comfort. Marcus Aurelius, who governed the largest empire on earth and still chose deliberate discipline over easy indulgence every single day of his life, wrote, "The obstacle is the way. Comfort is not your friend. Comfort is the enemy wearing a friendly face, smiling at you warmly while slowly emptying your future into a quiet drain. One avoided conversation at a time. One postponed decision at a time. One more morning of staying comfortable instead of beginning the hard thing at a time. Here is what I know about families that actually break cycles, that rise out of generational patterns and build something lasting and new. They were not comfortable. They chose discomfort deliberately, repeatedly, as even when no one was watching and no one would have blamed them for choosing otherwise. They had the hard conversations. They showed up when they did not feel like showing up. They began before they were ready, because they understood that readiness, like someday, is mostly a comfortable story. People tell themselves to avoid beginning. Comfort is a currency. You are always spending it on something. You either spend it today, building a future worth inhabiting, or you spend your future maintaining today's comfort. One of those trades is worth making. The other will cost you more than you can calculate. Your children are watching you choose. Make sure what they are inheriting from your choices is worth carrying. Habit 5. A broken relationship with money. Money does not favor the wealthy by accident. It stays where it is genuinely respected and thoughtfully managed. Let me say something that might feel uncomfortable, because the truth usually does before it becomes useful. Most financial problems inside a home are not really about money. They are about the relationship with money. The beliefs, the conversations that happen or never happen, the habits of spending and saving and avoiding and denying that play out inside those four walls every single day. Money is not mysterious. It follows patterns. It responds to behavior. It has absolutely no loyalty to income level, which is the thing that surprises people most when they finally look at it honestly. There are people earning extraordinary salaries who are financially drowning, because the habits of their home push money out faster than it arrives, and the gaps between what they earn and what they owe keep getting quietly wider. And there are people living on genuinely modest incomes who are slowly, carefully, consistently building something real, because they have learned to treat what they have with respect, to manage it with intention, and to make every unit of it work before letting it go. The difference is almost never the number on the paycheck. The difference is almost always the habits. Epictetus, who owned essentially nothing and understood everything worth understanding about human nature, said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for what he lacks, but finds richness in what he holds." Poverty is not only the absence of money. It is the absence of wisdom and gratitude for what is already in your hands. Because here is the practical reality beneath the philosophy. A person who cannot manage a small amount will not suddenly become wise with a larger one. The number changes. The habits stay the same, until the habits change. What does genuinely respecting money look like inside a real home? It looks like knowing where it goes. Not roughly, not approximately, not a vague sense. Actually knowing. Looking at the real numbers with honesty, without blame, without shame, simply with the willingness to see the truth. It looks like making financial decisions together. One of the most common patterns in chronically struggling homes is financial secrecy, purchases hidden from partners, debt building silently in the dark. Anxiety carried alone because the conversation feels too dangerous to start, and the secrecy does not protect anyone. It compounds the problem. It adds the weight of isolation to the weight of the debt itself, until the whole thing becomes a crisis that could have been a conversation years earlier. It looks like teaching children, not with formal lectures necessarily, but with daily visible behavior. Children who grow up watching adults engage thoughtfully with money absorb that intelligence before they ever handle a dollar of their own. And children who grow up watching financial chaos absorb that too. Both are inheritance. Both arrive without being chosen. It looks like changing the story your home tells about money. In so many households, money is spoken about with exhausted resignation and quiet resentment. We will never have enough. Rich people are just lucky. There is no point in saving. Something always comes up. Those words are not neutral. They are instructions. They become the operating story your mind and your children's minds follow. What if the story in your home became instead, we are people who handle what we have with care and intentionality, even before it felt completely true. Speak it until it becomes true. Money does not stay where it is not respected. Invite it to stay. Habit 6. A home without a shared dream. A family without a shared vision is just a collection of people waiting for life to decide things for them. When is the last time your family talked about the future? Not the logistics of the week. Not who is picking up whom and what needs to be paid and whether the car needs servicing. The real future, and the wide open, anything is still possible future. When is the last time you sat with the people you love most and said, let us talk about who we are becoming. Let us describe the life we actually want to build together. Let us dream out loud. For most families, and this is not a criticism, this is a description of something very common, the honest answer is, not recently. Maybe not ever in that way. Not with that kind of intention and openness and courage. And that silence, the absence of shared vision where it should live, is one of the quietest and most consequential habits a household can fall into. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. First decide who you are becoming, then live toward it. That is vision. And a family that possesses it together possesses something that cannot be bought or borrowed or stumbled into. Something that changes everything about how the daily difficulties feel and what the ordinary sacrifices mean. Think about what a shared dream actually does for a home. It gives the daily grind context. When a family knows where they are going together, when there is a shared, spoken, genuinely believed picture of what they are building, what they want for each other, what the future could look like if they keep choosing well, then the hard days make sense. The sacrifices have a story. The discipline does not feel like punishment. It feels like investment. The parent working long hours is not just tired. They are building something. The teenager taking on extra work or study is not just busy. They are part of a family that moves with direction and purpose. Even small financial choices feel different when they serve something real and shared. But without a dream, the long hours are just exhausting. The sacrifices feel pointless. The discipline has nothing to live inside. And slowly, quietly, people begin trying less. Not because they are lazy, not because they stopped caring, but because effort without direction is simply spinning in place. And the human spirit can sustain that only so long before it runs out of reason to keep spinning. A family with no direction is a family waiting for life to happen to them. And life, when left to its own devices, does not always choose generously. Without a chosen direction, life fills the vacuum with its own. And what life fills it with is rarely what the family would have chosen for itself. Here is the part that reaches me most deeply. The children raised in homes without shared vision grow up believing that the future is something you wait for rather than something you build. They step into adulthood as passengers in their own lives, not sure how to want something specifically enough to pursue it, because nobody ever sat them down and showed them what it looks like to decide who you want to become and then live toward it consistently. That lesson has to be witnessed before it can be learned. And it has to be witnessed at home. What is your family's dream? Not individually. Together. What are you building? What does your home look like in 5 years if you make the right choices starting now? What story do you want to be telling at the dinner table a decade from now? Those questions deserve honest, hopeful, specific answers. And the answers have to be spoken out loud before they can be lived. A family with a shared dream is one of the most powerful forces that exists. And every family, from wherever they are starting right now, has the complete ability to become that. You just have to look up from the immediate long enough to ask, where are we going together? Habit 7. The atmosphere you allow to live in your home. Whatever you permit to exist inside your home will eventually exist inside your children. We have come to the last one. And this is the one I need you to hear with your full attention, because everything we have discussed today, the conflict, the disrespect, the complaints, and the comfort chosen at the expense of growth, the broken relationship with money, the absence of vision, all of it ultimately leads here to this single, staggering, inescapable truth. The atmosphere of your home becomes the interior world of your children. Whatever you allow to breathe inside those walls will eventually breathe inside them. That is not metaphor. That is not spiritual abstraction. That is a documented, repeatable, deeply human reality that plays out in family after family, generation after generation, with a consistency that should give every parent and every partner pause before choosing what kind of atmosphere they are willing to tolerate under their roof. Children are not shaped only by the lessons they are taught. They are shaped permanently, profoundly shaped by what they live inside. 2. The emotional climate they wake up to every morning. The words they hear most often until those words become the voice they use to narrate their own interior experience. The behaviors they witness until those behaviors feel like the definition of normal. The expectations in the air, spoken and unspoken, that tell them what people like us do, what people like us believe, what people like us deserve. Marcus Aurelius wrote 2 things that belong together in this moment. The first, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The second, and perhaps the most important thing ever written about the power of an environment. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Your home is the dye, your children are the cloth. Whatever color fills your walls, whatever thoughts, words, emotions, patterns, and habits dominate the daily atmosphere of your home, will color them. Deeply, permanently, silently, and long after they have grown and built their own lives and moved into their own spaces. The color of your home will live inside your children decades after they leave it. So, I want to ask you something that deserves your most honest answer. What color is your home right now? Is it the color of safety? The kind where people feel free to speak without bracing for impact? The color of laughter that arrives easily? The color of forgiveness that does not make the person who needs it feel ashamed for needing it? The color of people who disagree without destroying each other, who love without conditions, who dream out loud without embarrassment? Or is it the color of tension, the color of walking carefully, measuring words before speaking them, of love that feels like something you have to earn back daily, of silences that are not peaceful but punishing, of criticism that arrives faster than encouragement? Because your children are being colored right now, in this season. On the ordinary Wednesday evenings and the Saturday mornings and the dinner tables and in the car rides and in the moments they were not supposed to see but did. They are absorbing everything. Not the version of you that you intend to be someday. The version that shows up today. The tone of your voice when you are frustrated. The way you talk about money when there is not enough of it. The way you treat the person you share your life with when you are at your most tired and most depleted. The way you respond to failure, yours and theirs. The way you speak about other people. The way you speak about yourself when you think nobody is paying attention. All of it is being written into them right now, permanently. A home that allows darkness to become its default, where cynicism is the atmosphere, where dreams are dismissed before they are even fully formed, where the answer to almost every possibility is some version of that will never work for people like us. That home produces people who are afraid to want things, not because they were explicitly instructed to be afraid, but because they breathed fear every day until it became indistinguishable from their own. And a home that chooses, deliberately, consistently, imperfectly but persistently, to be the color of peace and respect and honest love and genuine possibility. That home produces something rare and extraordinary. It produces people who know what they are worth and do not require others to constantly confirm it. People who can love without suspicion because they grew up inside love that did not require anything to earn it. People who pursue good things for their lives, not because they were handed advantages, but because they were raised inside the evidence that good things are possible. They carry that evidence everywhere. Into their friendships, into their work, into their own homes, into the children they will one day raise. That is legacy. Real, lasting, generational legacy. And it costs nothing that money can buy. It requires no perfect circumstances. It requires only this: the daily decision to protect what you allow to live in the space where your children are growing. The deeper truth. Let me step back from all 7 for a moment and speak to you directly. We have walked through 7 patterns today. Constant conflict that drains the life from every person inside those walls. Disrespect that turns family members slowly into strangers. Daily complaining that hands hopelessness to the next generation like a gift they never asked for. The comfort chosen at the expense of the future the family deserves. Financial habits that push away the resources the family needs. The absence of shared vision that leaves everyone moving without direction. And the atmospheres we allow to grow in our homes, knowing that whatever grows there will eventually grow inside our children. Did any of those land in a tender place? Did any of them make you think of someone, or more honestly, of yourself? If so, I hear this clearly, because I mean it completely. That recognition is not evidence that you are failing. It is evidence that you are paying attention, and paying attention is the first, most essential, most undervalued step toward anything real and lasting. You cannot change what you are unwilling to see. Here is also what I need you to hear. None of these 7 habits are moral failures. None of them are evidence of bad character or weak will or some fundamental flaw in who you are. They are patterns. Human, learnable, inheritable, repeatable patterns. And they were almost certainly given to you by someone who did not choose them either, who received them from someone else, who inherited them from someone before that. The conflict living in your home today may be an echo of conflict that has moved through your family for decades. The disrespect may be the only relational language someone taught you before you had words of your own. The complaining, the avoidance, the financial chaos, the absence of dreams. They may all have roots that go further back than you. And that is not your fault. None of it is your fault. But it is your responsibility. Because every cycle ends somewhere. Every chain is broken by someone. Every generational pattern eventually meets a person who looks at it clearly and says, "This ends here. Not in my children. Not in their children. It ends here, in this home, starting now." That person can be you. A prosperous home, genuinely deeply prosperous, is not built with money. It is built with peace, the kind that makes every person inside feel safe enough to be exactly who they are. It is built with respect, on the ordinary daily choice to honor the people you share your life with. It is built with discipline, the willingness to do the hard thing even when nothing is easy and comfort is calling. It is built with unity, the understanding that the people in your home are not your competition and not your opponents. They are your people. You are on the same side of every real thing that matters, and it is built with vision. The courage to say together, "This is who we are becoming. This is what we are building. This is where we are going, and we are going there together." Closing. I want to talk to you directly now, not as a narrator, not as a voice with a lesson, just as one human being to another who is carrying something. You woke up today with something on your mind. I do not know exactly what it is. Maybe it is worry about the people you love. Maybe it is quiet guilt about a pattern you have recognized in yourself and wish were not there. Maybe it is grief for a version of your home that you once had, or always imagined having, but somewhere along the way slipped away from you. Maybe it is the low, persistent fear that things cannot really change, that it is too late, that too much has already been done and said and settled into. Whatever it is, I want you to know something. The fact that you are here, listening to this, willing to look honestly at things that are genuinely uncomfortable to look at, that is not nothing. That is not small. That is, in its own quiet way, a form of courage. And courage has always been where every real change begins. You cannot undo yesterday. You cannot walk back into the arguments that went further than you intended, or reclaim the years that passed while the dream was waiting on the shelf. That is not available to you. But today is. And today is enough to begin something real. Not with a dramatic gesture, not with a declaration, just with one small, deliberate, intentional choice. Maybe today you speak to someone in your home with more gentleness than you did yesterday. Maybe today you ask your partner how they are really doing and you mean it and you wait for the real answer. Maybe today you sit with your children and ask about their dreams and listen, actually listen, all the way to the end. Maybe today you look at the finances honestly, without blame, just to know the truth. Maybe today you speak something hopeful into the air of your home. Something that sounds like a future. Something that sounds like we are going somewhere together. Maybe today you simply choose to protect the peace of your home for 24 hours. To refuse, just for today. To let conflict or bitterness or hopelessness move in and set down roots. Those are not small things. Those are the foundational choices from which entirely different family stories are built. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself every morning, while carrying the weight of an empire, words that I think belong in the ears of every parent, every partner, every person building a home. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The power is not somewhere out there. It is not waiting for circumstances to improve, or for the economy to shift, or for the perfect moment to announce itself. The power is inside these walls, inside the choices made in the ordinary moments that most people do not even recognize as choices. It is inside you. Change the habits, and you change the atmosphere. Change the atmosphere, and you change what your children absorb. Change what your children absorb, and you change the direction of everyone who comes after them. The long, unbroken, beautiful line of people who will carry something of your home inside them long after you are gone. Leave them something worth carrying. Your family deserves it, and you have exactly what it takes to give it to them. Starting now, starting today, starting in the home you are already inside. Thank you so much for being here and listening all the way to the end. This video took real time and real heart to create. And if it reached you in some way, if any part of it felt true, if any part of it gave you something useful to carry into your home today, then please take a moment to like this video. It genuinely helps this message reach more families who need it. Leave a comment below and tell me which of the 7 habits resonated with you most, or share something about the change you are committing to. Subscribe to Stoic Zeno if you want to keep building a stronger, wiser, more grounded version of your life. New videos are here for you regularly. Share this video with someone whose home deserves this message. And if you want to go even further in supporting the work we do here at Stoic Zeno, you can press the Super Thanks button right below this video. Every contribution, at every level, is seen and it matters deeply. Your story does not have to stay where it is. The cycle can end with you. The home you build from here can be something your children are proud to have grown up inside. Go build it. Your family is worth every single effort it takes. This is Stoic Zeno, and I will see you in the next one.